Welcome back to another video on MTB, and today we're going to be talking about the difference between coil and air suspension forks. First up is the air suspension. So, air suspension, instead of using a coil like the other fork, uses air pressure, and you have to fill up your fork with a shock pump, basically. And it's definitely more adjustable. There's more settings, and typically air suspension is going to be on a higher end bike, and coil suspension is going to be on more of like a beginner bike. So this is my bike, the Trek Excalibur 7, and this has a RockShox Judy air suspension fork with 100 millimeters of travel. So I'm going to show you some specific things about how to set up your suspension and the difference between the two right now. So the first part of the suspension that we're going to be talking about is the lockout. So this right here, this little knob, is the lockout. And the lockout basically makes it so you can stop your suspension from sagging. So typically your suspension will sag like this. Now, with a lockout, your suspension is going to sag like this. Alright, so the next setting that I'm going to be talking about is sag. So this applies to air suspension again, just like a lockout does. Lockout can apply to coil suspension, but not the one I'm going to be showing you. So sag is basically, there's an air cap on the other side of your fork, and basically you take a shock pump and you can put as much air as you need into it, depending on your weight, basically. So some people are going to need more pressure to get their sag right, which will make their fork go down more or less. Getting you a close-up of the air cap, there it is right there. It basically, you can take this off and pump up your suspension more or less, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So behind me is my bike, and I'm going to teach you how to use a shock pump. This is the shock pump I own. It's made by RockShox, which is the same company that makes my fork. So basically, there's normally going to be a clip. You're going to want to unclip that so the hose is hanging loose. And it's pretty simple. There's going to be a little bleed valve right there. It's like a little button. There's going to be the PSI meter. And then there's also just like, then you just have to go like that basically. So I'm going to teach you how to do that on the actual bike. You're going to want to get that knob, and then you're going to want to twist that off. So normally this cap is going to be pretty tight. I can't do this on camera, but I'm going to show you once it's twisted off. So now that I've twisted the cap off, there should be like this little valve, and this is the air cap taken off. Just can put that away, and that's the little valve. So now you're going to need to screw your shock pump into this right now, and I'll show you what that will look like. So now I have my shock pump screwed in, and there's currently basically no air in my fork, and you just have to press the little bleed valve to get all the air out. So I have my shock pump screwed in, and now I'm going to show you how to figure out how much PSI you need in your fork. So you can either just look this up, or some forks are going to come with a sticker on them of what PSI. So this fork says that anyone below 140 pounds should pump theirs up to 50 to 70 PSI, and I weigh about 115 pounds, so I'm going to go for about 50 PSI. Now you just use the pump basically, and since mine is high volume, it only took 1.5 full pushes, basic to full pumps basically, to get mine to about 45-50 psi. First, just screw the cap back on, because this thing can get damaged, and if it gets damaged, then your fork is broken forever, and then you're going to need to buy a new bike or a new fork. I don't need to show you what my suspension looks like when I try and sag it, because it was already like the same before. I just used the bleed valve to unpump it for tutorial purposes, but hopefully that helped you figure out how to dial into your suspension. But there's one other thing that I need to show you about an air fork, and I'm not actually sure if the other fork has it, but you're gonna see if that one has it. But it's called rebound, and it is arguably, besides sag, the most important part of the fork. So now in the last segment I talked about rebound, and rebound is extremely important. So see this little thing that says rebound, that has a turtle and a rabbit on it? So if you turn right, for my fork at least, it's going to slow down your rebound and make it so your fork comes up slower. And if you turn it to the left, it's going to make it come up quicker. So I'm going to show you what that looks like right now. So I'm about to click it all the way down, basically. So we're going to see what it looks like with a very low rebound. So it's all the way cranked down now. Can't go any farther, and I'm going to show you. So see how my fork came up very slowly? That's because I clicked my rebound so low. And now I'm going to show you what it looks like when you have your rebound on the max. So now, looking at that one, see how quickly my fork came up compared to the low rebound? I would recommend sticking it a little lower on the side, on like the lower side, because if you have it too high up, it's going to be like a pogo stick. And it's not, you're going to be going over a rock, then the seat's going to slam up in your balls, which is never fun. So I would recommend cranking it about 2/3 of the way closest to the turtle like I am right now. And by the way, the turtle and the rabbit on the fork, turtle means slower going up, which is the slower rebound. Rabbit means faster going up, so higher rebound. So this is my brother's bike. It's a Specialized Rockhopper 29er. It's size medium, so this bike is much too large for me. This is the only bike with a coil fork that I have access to right now. So yeah, so so compared to an air fork comes standard with those three things. It's gonna come standard with rebound, air compression, and a lockout, basically. So a coil fork, it's a little different. So some will have a lockout, some will have rebound, and some won't. But it's always going to come with one setting that it has to come with. If you're buying a bike that isn't really like a Walmart bike, it's going to come with preload. And preload is the equivalent of air compression for a bike with a coil. So if you turn the knob on the button, which I'm going to show you in a sec like I said earlier, if you turn the knob to the left, it's going to make it so you need to apply less pressure for the fork to go down. And if you turn it to the right, it's going to make it so you need to apply more pressure. So this is a very simple fork, the one I have with me right now. The lockout and the rebound work exactly the same as the air fork for a coil fork that does have these. But I'm going to. So this is a preload knob. As you can see, this is what controls how easy it is for the fork to go basically down. But one thing is about this fork is it's a pretty entry-level fork, but I'm going to tell you something about it really soon that's important to know about a coil fork. And also, this fork is a SR Suntour XCE, and it has 100 millimeters of travel. So yeah, basically, a coil fork is not going to be as adjustable, and it also doesn't feel quite as good as an air fork. So if you can get a bike with an air fork, I would recommend it, but it doesn't matter too much. So yeah, that's all you need to know about both forks. Thank you for watching this video on MTB. Hopefully it was useful, or at least entertaining, and it would really be awesome if you could like and subscribe. So thank you.